Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is Heidi at Hidden Chick Studio in Conrad, Iowa. Welcome. We are having our Spring Break Snippets, and this is episode number 1 out of 3. Today, tomorrow, and Thursday at 2:30 each day, we're doing just a little bit of a spring break to give you just an opportunity to have a little afternoon break, right? So jump on in the comments. Tell me where you are watching from, because it warms my heart to know that we're spreading creativity coast to coast. And hopefully today we will, maybe you'll all say something that'll just give you a new little tip or idea, or teach you something, or go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. We are having fun this week also with polls and the opportunity to win prizes. So if you go to henandchickstudio.com/spring break, there's also a logo right on the home page, and click on that. That is where I'm putting everything. So if you ever wonder what is happening, if you go to our website, that's different than Facebook. If you go to our website and click on that spring break logo, or go to henandchickstudio.com/spring break. You're going to find everything that we're doing. How does the poll work? I ask a question, you answer it, and by doing that, you get entered into the drawing for prizes, which is going to be Friday morning, and 1 entry per poll. So technically, you could have 4 entries by the time we're done. I started yesterday with poll 1, and this morning, poll 2 went up. 3 will go up tomorrow. Number 4 will go up Thursday. All of those polls will close at the end of the day on Thursday. So by make sure you get them answered. So answer each one of them, and you'll have 4 chances in our prize drawing on Friday. So we would certainly love to have you participate in that as well. So today I decided that our theme was going to be all about fat quarters and some basic sewing knowledge. We get asked a lot of questions. Something that I remind myself every day is, on this creative journey, on my quilting journey, I'm way down the road. Because I've been doing this for a long time, but we have new people that are coming on all of the time and don't have the same foundational sewing information that I may have had when I was growing up and doing 4-H, or maybe it's been so long they kind of forgot about those kinds of things. So I wanted to talk about some things that we talk about all the time around here, and make sure that you are up to snuff with everything that is important when you talk about quilt making. So the first thing, and if you think, oh, this is basic information, I don't need to listen, that's okay. But you might want to stay tuned, because I got something for you at the end, okay? Okay, so I made some visuals. More than just my normal drawings on the little pieces of paper at the cutting table. For those of you who come in and have us help you calculate things, you know that I like to make little drawings. I made them kind of fancy today, okay? So we're going to start with, here's the first one. This is a yard of fabric. So when we have a yard of fabric, there is a piece of selvage on this end and a piece of selvage on this edge. I refer to the side measurement from selvage to selvage as 42 usable inches. Now our fabric is measured as 44-45. Sometimes those selvages are thick. Sometimes they're thick on both ends, kind of thing. So, and you don't want to use the selvages. Just all sorts of different reasons, right? So I always calculate all of my math on 42 usable inches from selvage edge to selvage edge. And so this down the bottom here, this is 1 yard. So this entire square, and do not check to see if it's proportional. I did not do a true proportional thing. I tried to make it look proportional, right? So from here to here is 1 yard. And so if you come in and you say, I would like a 1/4 yard of fabric. That is a traditional 1/4 yard. So it is going to be this 9-inch wide piece. So I'm going to cut it right here, right? I'm going to cut a 1/4 yard, or 9 inches. So you'd end up with a 9 by 42-inch piece. 1/2 yard, 18 inches. 3/4 yard, 27 inches. And of course, a yard is 36 inches. These days, there are so many different ways to buy fabric. And so that means there's a lot of different ways to also write patterns. So designers are using 5-inch stackers and 10-inch squares and jelly rolls and all of these different kinds of things. So quite often I'll help people calculate how much can you get out of a certain amount of fabric, a certain shape. So if you're wanting 5-inch squares, you would have to, if you were buying, calculate, this kind of yardage, a 5-inch square is going to come best out of a 9-inch. That would be a 1/4 yard. There's extra waste there, right? But then I would say, okay, out of 42 inches, how many 5-inch squares can I get? I believe that'd be 8, because that's 40 inches, right? So, things like that you would have to calculate. So this is how we cut our traditional fabrics, okay? Then, again, we get a lot of questions. What is a fat quarter? Again, I don't want to take that I don't want to make that assumption that you know what a fat quarter is, because I've grown up with them. They've been around for a long time, but it is what we refer to as a pre-cut fabric. So I just a minute ago mentioned that you can buy fabrics in 10-inch stackers, jelly rolls, which are 2.5 inch, 5-inch stackers. Those are all considered pre-cut sizes, pre-cut squares. Well, fat quarters are the same, okay? And right behind me, I decided to stand in front of one of our fat quarter walls today. And so I'm going to just grab one right now. Here, I'll just grab one right out of here. So this is a fat quarter. So it's considered a premium cut because we had to cut it apart and repackage it, right? You can buy all sorts of pre-cuts from various fabric companies. I have very few different kinds of pre-cuts. Once in a while, like for example, right in front of me, I have a 5-inch stacker in this for this table runner. It made the most sense because I wasn't getting the entire collection. And so to be able to give you what you needed for that pattern, it made sense. And we've got a couple things coming up where we're going to be doing that, but it's on a special, I just don't do that all of the time. Fat quarters, we cut all of our own fat quarters here. Again, for the most part, because we can package them how we want, that kind of thing. So what is a fat quarter? A fat quarter, okay, so it's the same, you understand. This was my 1 yard, and that's my traditional cuts. Now I'm going to cut it at the 18-inch mark, and then when I cut it into 1/2 yards, I slice it on the fold, and so that means I have 21 usable inches of fabric. So a fat quarter is here. So you still 1, 2, 3, 4 1/4 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4 fat quarters. So what it means is that you're still getting the same amount of fabric as a 1/4 yard, but it's a different shape. And a lot of patterns calculate their cutting based on a fat quarter because they know quilters too well, right? It's like candy in a candy store. You can't stop at just one piece. It's like collecting, you just want to pull them all out. And so a fat quarter, again, is an 18 by 20 inch rectangle. And what we do here for fat quarters is, I want to show you, so again, we have individual fat quarters, right? So you can buy those all the time. Obviously online, that's a little harder because we can't, it's not easy to show a fat quarter that way, but we do a ton of packaging. So you might have seen recently I did the unboxing for Itty Bitty, the new Moda collection from Primitive Gatherings. That collection is quite large, so I packaged it in 2 bundles. So if you said, oh, I like the entire collection, great, buy both. If you say, you know what, I like the ones that are more like white or cream, or wait a minute, I like the ones that are more gray, then you've got your choices of what you want to do. So none of our fat quarter bundles, like all sizes are allowed, right? So we might have a small fat quarter bundle like Splatter, which only has 6 colors, okay? Or Kim Deal, Autumn Farmhouse. Look at this beautiful collection. And it's got a variety, right, of light, dark, that kind of thing, so that you can see all the different ones. So that has 13 in it. We always support our collegiate teams with our specialized Cyclone and Hawkeye bundles, where sometimes we add, like in the Cyclone one, we've added some yellows to coordinate so that you actually have some things that you could work with to make a quilt. Sometimes we'll find a themed fabric like this one from Shoreline and add coordinates, some of which are from Shoreline, some are which are not. Same thing, Kim Deal, Lori Holt. Oh my gosh, those collections are beautiful and they're big, so we've broken them up. So yellows and greens and teals and purples, so that you have the chance to look at them all differently. And we have an entire category all for fat quarters. And Garden Fresh, so it was based on this piece right here. And then we found coordinating purples and teals that make that bundle just a little special, right? So all sorts of things like that that we're doing with fat quarters. And of course, if you say, I want a project to do with fat quarters, not a problem. We can direct you to the designers and the patterns that are great for using fat quarters. And if you have a favorite fat quarter pattern that you have, I'd love to have you type it in the comments and tell me what you like. I just grabbed a couple that I always like for a variety of reasons. One, sometimes I like a quilt that doesn't require any additional background fabric. So I like, if I'm going to buy fat quarters, I just want to use the fat quarters up that I'm using. So a project like Elvira is exactly that. 20 fat quarters makes a lap size quilt that's 63 by 84. And this is from Gudrun Erla. All I have to do is add binding, right? Same can be said, again, another one I love from Atkinson Designs. This is called Birthday Presents. 20 fat quarters here makes a 52 by 65 inch quilt, and all you need is binding. And this one can look so different. Or this one here, 21 fat quarters makes a twin that is 70 by 98. Now you do have to add a background fabric to this, okay? And then here's another great one from the Whole Country Caboodle. This one requires 20 fat quarters, and of course then the background colors as well. But when you buy fat quarters, you can very quickly increase the amount of prints and colors that you have. So if you were buying an entire collection or just mixing it up, I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you could put those fabrics together. Okay, so that is some basic information about fat quarters. And just a quick, are you there and are you listening? How many fat quarters might be in a yard? Anybody know the answer to that? Drop it in the comments while we're talking, okay? Okay, the next part I just want to talk a little bit about is understanding salvages. And so I'm going to open up, let me see if this one has, of course, let's see, does this one have a good salvage? No, of course it doesn't. All right, hold on a minute, I'm going to put that one back. Let me see if I can find one that has a really distinct salvage. I should have opened one up. Oh, this one's cute. We just got new dog fabric in yesterday. And let's see if this one has yes, I think this one has a distinct salvage. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to open up a fat quarter. Okay. So here is our fat quarter. All right. Make sure you can see it. So what we've done, remember, I'm going to go back to the diagram. Here it is. We've cut along the selvage edge. We've cut it in half, and then we've sliced it in half. So this is our half of a yard, and then we sliced it at the top, and then that means the selvage edge is at the bottom. What does the selvage do? It usually tells you who the company is, maybe who the designer is. Sometimes it'll have like a SKU on it, and then sometimes it usually has some kind of color. I can't remember the exact word where they test or they show all the colors that are in this print. And in this particular one, they used paw prints. And that to me is just adorable. If you like selvages and when you are cutting them off your fabrics and that kind of thing, you can certainly save them. There are projects and people who love to do projects with salvages, and that's a whole nother gig. I'm not getting into that today. But again, there are some fun salvages out there. But in general, you do not want your selvages in your projects. Why? Because it's a tighter weave, right? So, and it can be a very distinct color change. So if all of a sudden you have a white selvage and you're doing a black quilt, that's not going to look so good, okay? And the tighter selvage, it might, like on the long arm, we talk about the fact that those selvages can be so tight that it can change the tension when we're quilting through it. And there's a lot of different things that we can do. It won't fray. So I leave selvages on. I don't start my cutting process by cutting off selvages. I just make sure that in the cutting process, when I have a piece ready to go into the quilt, there's no selvage on it. Okay? Because there's a lot of times where that selvage helps you keep, I'm going to say, you don't want to cut it off and waste any extra kind of thing, but at the same time, you'll trim it off as you're cutting your quilt with most quilting instructions. Okay, so it's usually denser and tighter than the rest of the quilt, okay? And it may not shrink the same. That would be another reason. So you eventually are going to want to have that off. So let's talk about fabric grain. And, we don't talk a lot about fabric grain, but there are a few things that I do think are important. So again, my little diagram got really fancy today. And so again, just showing you my yard of fabric here, that when you are talking about the space between from selvage to selvage, this is your crosswise grain. When you are talking about perpendicular to your selvage, you are talking lengthwise grain. And when you are doing diagonally from the corners, that's your bias. Okay, why is that important? Let me just show you a little visual, right? Okay, so crosswise grain from selvage to selvage. We're going to pretend the selvage is here, right? And it has some pull to it. Okay, not a lot, but some. Lengthwise grain, so that's perpendicular to the selvage, has much, I'm pulling on it, much less, you can see I'm exaggerating, trying to get it to pull, much less pull. And then if I go bias and diagonal, what's going to happen? Woohoo! We're going to have a little purdy, right? We're going to be able to pull that thing all over the place. So a couple things that you need to know. One, most often we cut all of our fabric crosswise because that is the most efficient and it's the most cost effective. But there are times when lengthwise grain is important. And one of those is if you're doing borders on a really big quilt, and if you've ever had kind of wavy borders or borders that stretch kind of thing, a lengthwise grain cut, then you don't have to piece it and it goes the length. Why do most people not do that? It's the cost, right? So if all of a sudden I'm making a 108-inch wide quilt, That's 3 yards of fabric I gotta buy to get that wider, that border so I can cut it lengthwise. Now, maybe if you're, mathematically, if you're putting 10-inch borders, then no problem, right? Because you're going to get 4 strips at 108 inches out of that 42 usable inches, then it's efficient. Or maybe you think about it in advance, and like if you say, you know what, by just buying an extra half yard, I can cut those borders lengthwise, and I can use the rest of the fabric then to cut the pieces I need to that go in the quilt. If you ever have any questions about that, you're always welcome to ask, and we're always glad to help. But bias edges are great if you're doing like curved binding, then that'll help give your fabric a little bit of give, okay? So it's another, another reason why you want to know what's crosswise bias and lengthwise. There's nothing wrong with cutting your stuff crosswise. It's the way we do almost every quilt. It's just a matter of understanding where fabric shifts and moves, okay? All right, and I have a little something special for you. Let me see, I gotta find it. Here we go. I have a free fat quarter waiting for you, okay? And so this coupon, showing it here first, and it'll appear on the landing page, hiddenchickstudio.com/springbreak, is for a free fat quarter. And those of you who are Red Bag Club members, you're going to understand how this works. But there's a SKU number, and the SKU of the product is SBS25, okay? And that will get you it'll come up and it'll say fat quarter, $3.75. If you are purchasing it online with your next order, you're going to put in SBS FQ as your coupon code, and that $3.75 will be taken off. You are responsible for any shipping costs, and it's one per person. So, and it's good through, I put the expiration date is April 18th. So you got 30 days, roughly, right? To use this coupon. And you can, again, bring, if you're like on our website, you can screenshot the coupon. You can go to that page. It'll still be active for the next 30 days. And you can say, I've got the Spring Break Snippet fat quarter coupons. If you're coming in the store, coupon codes cannot be combined, so you can only use one coupon code per order. So you want to keep that in mind. But this is my free gift to you because, you know what, I love to give stuff away, right? So this, again, will all be on the website. So if you're not catching that, but if you're online, you're literally going to buy the product, SBS25, and then you're going to use coupon code SBSFQ. That's all caps, no spaces, at checkout, and then you will be able to get that free fat quarter with your next order, okay? And again, you have until April 18th to claim your fat quarter. Okay, let's see. Let me go through make sure I did not forget anything. And I don't know if anybody has questions. I am not seeing comments, and I have a feeling you guys are being active, and I'm just not, for some reason, getting to see all of those. But I appreciate everybody being on, and I will try to get anything answered after we are off the live. But a couple things. I'll be back here at 2:30 tomorrow to do yet another Spring Break Snippet little video. There'll be a new poll tomorrow. So you're going to want to watch for that. And give me 5 minutes to regroup, and I'm going to go live and do an unboxing of some new stuff that came in today. All right? So everybody, have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.